Hey Al, Craig. Still hot in South Carolina. Makes things tough. But I'll tell you what, it's tough in China. They've been getting over a month of flooding rains. Southern China is just flooded like 16 feet above ground level in some areas. The huge Three Gorges Dam is reportedly actually moving. It's scary stuff. They've got locusts up in the north right after they had huge hailstorms. So their crops are getting wiped out. Their industrial areas from central to south are just flooded out. Oh, they're having earthquakes too, tornadoes. It's like the wrath of God or something. It's rough. And on top of it all, for these poor folks, and there's a lot of them, regular folks like many of us, they had the misfortune of being born in a communist country. And of course that means there's a lot of corruption, deep corruption. I think all of the leadership of China is from like one group, one clan kind of thing. And they rule in such a way that, like every communist government, you're either part of the party inner circle or you're not. You might be able to work your way up through loyalty to a certain level, but I don't think you can ever reach the highest levels. They keep that exclusive, like good communist will, right? And the leadership right now, we had some deals worked out where I thought, after the tariffs and stuff, they'd kind of comply and start doing business with us, but this virus has destroyed any credibility they might have ever had. Even after all of the intellectual property theft and just outright theft of all our different secrets of how to manufacture X, Y, and Z. When you take more than 5 weeks to let the world know that you've got a really bad virus that is traveling person to person, you're evil. I mean, this could have been stopped and the world spared of all of this easily. And I don't know why. Was it engineered? God, who knows? I guess somebody knows. It's weird that they collect these viruses in Wuhan at this specific lab. It's weird that we put so much money into it. It's extra weird that I think Fauci was there and even said something about bat viruses, but I'm not sure. Good old internet, you have to triple check everything, quadruple check. But yeah, so they've lost credibility after not letting the whole world know that there was a horrible virus about to escape. They shut down travel inside of China so that especially Shanghai leadership areas wouldn't be infected. So they knew something was up, but they let everyone else travel out throughout the world. Trump fortunately shut down travel early on. But it was all over Europe. It was all over California, probably. It was all over the world. It came out in, what is it? We heard about it in December. I guess they knew about it in November. And we started really experiencing in January, February, maybe over here. But it was all over the place, probably by then. As much as people travel, especially, China has manufacturing and raw materials interests all over the globe. Even more so now, right, with their Belt and Road Initiative. And that's a scary thing. So consider China has lost a lot of credibility. They've poisoned the world, basically. But on top of that, on top of all the natural disasters they're having right now, they're attacking on the border of India, which is a really mountainous region where the border's kind of in dispute forever. And India's a big country that's pretty pissed off at China right now. Taiwan, they've been threatening Taiwan. They feel that Taiwan's part of China. Taiwan's basically the leadership of China that escaped in the fall of communism under, I guess, what was it now, and established themselves there. Taiwan's not part of China, but China wants to make sure the whole world thinks that that's the case. But anyway, they want control over Taiwan because it's in the shipping channels that they use. Everything has to go right past them for the most part. So it's a huge potential block for China if they want to, let's say, attack the world, which they've said they do. They want to be in the leadership position. They want to run the world, which is sort of the communist way, you know. They all have those aspirations. They usually die a horrible death after they've killed millions of their own people, but it takes a while because they rule with an iron fist. And China, certainly, boy, right now, I mean, okay, now look what they've done with Hong Kong. Hong Kong was under British control for ages, and it was agreed to, oh boy, I don't know, it was a few decades ago, that England would give up control to China, and China agreed that Hong Kong would be autonomous. They would vote their own people. They would basically have international rules, kind of like what we live under here in most countries that we do business with. And Hong Kong's been huge for business. It's a gigantic business hub. It's like the gateway into China. So basically, Hong Kong just lost all their rights. Way before China was supposed to take control against everyone's wishes, especially the people that live there. Hong Kong is basically part of China now. They've cracked down. As it's been said, I mean, they are the law, which means there is no law. There's trouble in Hong Kong, and they've made the claim that the flu is making another outbreak there, and so therefore everyone needs to hide, shelter in place, wear masks, things of that nature. But it's probably a mechanism to help them crack down. You know, obviously Hong Kong fought very hard to try to maintain their freedoms, and there's a lot of people in desperate situations right now, trying to erase the history on social media sites, stuff like that. I mean, these people they're fearing for their life, literally. If you're on the wrong side of the government in China, you'll be disappeared, as they say. Like the doctors who first tried to make the world aware of this COVID-19 virus, they're disappeared. You can't do business with people like that. But we've been doing business for a long time, since Nixon opened the door. We had hoped they would become like us more and more, shed the communism, become our global partner, one world order. But they didn't. They didn't do that. They stole our intellectual property. They stole our designs for everything that we build over there. If you become a partner over there, they become at least 51% partner. They're always majority. They have no scruples. There's stories about GM built a special little car over there, and about the same time GM started to produce this car, another factory on the other side of China started producing an identical car. I mean, literally, you could take a part off of one and put it on the other. They're identical, and that's China. I mean, if you do business there, they own that thing. That's why the big deal about TikTok and things like that. If you're a Chinese business, the military has access to anything they want. That's how it works. So if the military says, hey, we want access to every single person on your account, Mr. TikTok, they get it. And that's what they've been doing. And you might ask yourself, well, why would they? Who cares? I mean, I'm just Joe Schmo from Idaho, but they're trying to compile huge databases. They have invested a lot of money in artificial intelligence, and they're basically stuffing it full of our information. To make what kind of decisions, I don't know, but that's kind of how you do it. They've been working around the world to install infrastructure. Even here in the States, middle America, places where, there's some little township in the middle of nowhere that would very much like a telecommunication system, some broadband thing, some way to have internet out in the middle of nowhere, Nebraska. And it's cost prohibitive, but along comes some Chinese company and says, oh, you know what, we've got this great little system. It's very affordable, and we can install it, and okay, go ahead and put that in. They have. But the thing about all those kind of systems is they share the same lines, fiber optic and all that stuff, as all of the rest of our communications. And, it's not coincidental that in the middle of Nebraska, somewhere in the middle of the country, there's a bunch of missile silos and things like that all have information that run back and forth on those same communication trunks. Is there intermingling? Is there an attempt to pick up on some of that information? I don't know, but probably. And China's that way. So around the world, they do this. They've, this Belt Road Initiative. It's they're building huge infrastructure projects, rail and roads and ports all over Africa and South America, especially in strategic areas, which really helps their navy, their shipping, all of this. I mean, they've got ulterior motives, but they've been helping install this stuff and giving huge loans to these countries all over the place that don't have a chance of paying the money back. But the money's not really what China's after. They're after those locations. They're spreading out. But they're doing it in the way that it seems like they're being, your friend. We're gonna help you build a big project, and you're gonna have a lot of jobs, and there are a lot of jobs, but it's a lot of Chinese jobs. They move their own people out there and they build these things, which has been a big deal for them. They've kind of run out of things to build, and build very poorly in China. So as China creates this big chain of influence all around the world, and they've lost their credibility through this virus, and people have started to see that this Belt Road Initiative has resulted in China yanking chains. Like they'll build government buildings all over the place, and they'll be stuffed full of surveillance stuff. I mean, that's just China. I mean, they're just that way. They don't trust anybody. They don't trust themselves. It's communism. I mean, they discourage religion because, they discourage individuality. I mean, there's a reason why they need to steal so much of our technology. When you treat people that way, they're not very creative. They're just trying to hold on. And maybe they're really good in math. I mean, they have to be, right? or whatever they're told they have to study. But they don't have time to just think about stuff, or dream about, hey, man, if I invent this next great thing, I might get somewhere in life. In China, you are what you are for the most part. Or what they decide you're going to be. But anyway, so China's been making a lot of people upset around the world over this virus, over these other initiatives. But they've been swinging a lot of weight around. They've lent a lot of money to us and other countries. I think we're in debt a little over $1 trillion to China. But I think a lot of countries now are looking at that debt as like, you guys cost us a lot of money here, shutting down our economies, dealing with all the sickness, and you can imagine the whole world is going to want to take issue with this, and there's going to be a financial cost to it for China, or at least that's what people are going to want. So think about that. There's China. They've just taken over Hong Kong. They've made people upset on their borders all over. They've made their own people sick, stranded, flooded out. They're very secretive. And now you find out stuff like, they've got a lot of money. Well, they've always manipulated their currency, so it's hard to know what kind of money they have, but I can tell you this much. We allowed them, we allowed so much crazy stuff in the last few decades, but we've allowed them to come into our financial markets with public offerings of some of their companies. And what we found is that, slowly we're finding that these companies are not worth anywhere near what they said they were worth. And we can't do the kind of accounting that we would normally do to companies here that have public offerings. China's secretive, so it's like, no, it's all good, and trust us. And for some reason we do. So these emerging markets in Asia, the Chinese ones, a lot of them are very questionable what they're actually worth, if anything. And people have invested, pensions have invested a lot of money in these things. What a mess, right? And then on top of it, I was just reading this now, I got to look into this, but they've been counterfeiting gold bars, right? So people have been holding gold as capital or collateral for these big loans. And evidently, it wasn't worth what they said it was worth. They stuff, it's like a gold veneer with lead or tungsten, I guess. Usually tungsten's really, really heavy. And they had just, it's like an outside that looks like a gold brick. Oh, man, stuff like that is, it makes a big difference in the world. There's, you can imagine people that deal with big bucks. They like to know that there's at least some integrity to the business that they're doing. Otherwise, without that agreement that your stuff's pretty much worth what you say it is, everything collapses. So, look at China. I'm worried about them. All these disasters are going to cost a lot of money. One thing that's been uncovered is a lot of the buildings that have been built are for flash appeal, to make the world believe that they're more successful than they are. And so they're built out of like nothing. And in all this flooding and the earthquakes and stuff going on, they're just disintegrating. Big, like tall, I don't know, 80 plus story buildings with leaks going right down the center, stuff like that. People are really upset. And so you've got the people inside China who have been repressed. I mean, it's been brutal for them. You think, what a pain in the neck this whole virus has been for us. For them it's been one wave after another because they keep trying to kind of lock it down and act like nothing's happening, and then it gets out, and it's been awful for them. And then they're getting flooded out. They're losing their crops up north through locusts and hail and tornadoes, earthquakes. And now, of course, people don't want to do business there because they can't trust them because they've been stealing their stuff, and now they try to poison the world. So there's the people that run China, that one clan. And I imagine they're wondering, how are we going to control the story here? And I don't think they can. I think it's gotten a little too big. And what do big, powerful people do when they're under threat? They don't usually just acquiesce and say, oh, my bad, I'll make good. They don't usually do that. They usually sharpen up the swords and cause trouble. So, like I said, I'm worried about China. Have a good day.